Well, hello there, and welcome once again to another edition of Johnny Davis Live. Boy, we're going to have a great time right now. We're going to talk to three great fathers. Right, and what it's like to be a father, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to have a great time. Guys, we have Mr. Walker Vivian there. He's out of Carolina Kickboxing Academy out of Florence, South Carolina. You see him right there with me on the screen. We're going to chat with him first. Next, we're going to bring up a former world champion, undefeated kickboxer, Mr. David Barber. He's out of Warner, Robbins, Georgia. I think I got that right. And then kicking off in the end there, we're going to speak with Mr. Keith Morriera there. He's one of our PKB promoters, and he's an official, and all of those things. Actually, all of these people are, to be honest with you. And so we're going to be chatting with them. Want to always thank our sponsors, our Blackout Fights at blackoutfights.com. You can see them on our website at akpromotions.org, guys. We hope that you also like our YouTube channel at Johnny Davis Live with 3 exclamation marks. We're trying to build that up again. Just want to apologize for our last guest there. We had a little technical thing happen. I don't know if it was Facebook or me. I think it was Facebook. It wasn't me. Right? And we'll be doing that show a little later. Actually, I'm going to see if he's able to come back on a little later today. We'd like to go ahead and try to get that finished. Oh, my gosh. We were so into it. What a great show and everything. So, hey, guys, without any further ado, and if you want to make comments, please do. Please welcome on the screen. He is a professional Muay Thai kickboxing fighter. He's out of Florence, South Carolina, and he is a father. Let's give it up for Walker Vivian. I know. I like to introduce fighters that way, so they can feel that. Walker, how you been, man?
I've been really good, man. Things have been going good.
Good. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, about your club and how that's going over here during this COVID-19. You actually opened in South Carolina.
Yeah. I kind of, our friend Jeff Grady kind of helped me out, gave me a little push to go through the SC Chamber of Affairs. And I was actually able to open before the rest of the state opened up.
Right.
And given, like, once our South Carolina officially opened, man, I've been booming. Like I almost can't keep up. I can always keep up, but it's too much. But yeah, I'm doing great. This has been nice.
Right. Well, tell us a little bit about your actual club that you have there.
Yeah, so we do Muay Thai and kickboxing. Most people, don't really know the difference, but there's different style sets.
Yes.
Kind of more on the Dutch style of kickboxing, and we try to keep it as close to like Thai boxing as I can on the Muay Thai side.
But why do you say that now? Why do you say that, Walker?
Just sometimes, Muay Thai, like from Thailand, it can be watered down sometimes here in America, and I try to just keep it as close as I can. I've been to Thailand a handful of times and spent, a decent amount of time there. So I try to keep it as close as I can with the techniques I learned over there.
Right. You also have a tournament, a PKB, after our first PKB sparring tournament coming back. Hopefully, all of these, the COVID thing doesn't keep getting too crazy. You keep hearing about spikes here, spikes there, spikes there. What are your thoughts about that tournament being the first one back?
I hope you're ready, Johnny. I hope you're ready, man. I know I'm ready. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a great turnout. I've gotten a lot of interest. People calling the gym up here a lot about it. And I know just in my club alone, I've got about like 20 guys that want to compete.
Wow.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited. It's something I've been wanting to do. Bring to Florence as well. I know you did too for a long time. Florence was a market you wanted to get into, and I think this is just the beginning. We have venues here to have like bigger full contact shows and stuff. So I think this is kind of that first step in that direction.
We're going to talk a lot more about that, and I'm so ready, man. I'm so ready to do it and make it happen too. The PKB is just a start, right? Yeah. But we're going to open it up, and we're going to do a lot more things. Walker, somebody said the other day on Facebook when I posted this, that Walker Vivian should get the Father of the Year award. Why did they say that? Tell me, what's the idea of why they would say that?
I don't know. I'm a family man. I love my kids. My kids are here at the gym right now. Anybody that knows me knows you know, as much as I guess like some people would label it a stay-at-home dad, but all I do is I do the gym. But my kids, I've been fortunate enough, I bring my kids everywhere.
Mm,
My son, he's been with me like attached to my hip since he was 2 or 3 years old. You know, I
right.
take him everywhere. Same thing now. My daughter, she's almost 3. She goes everywhere with me. I don't know, man. I've never been one to separate the kids from things I'm doing. You know, if I can bring them, I bring them.
Right, right, right. Why is that important to you?
Well, you know, a lot of times, like parents get really caught up and get busy and making money or chasing careers. And I'm just very fortunate to, you know, my dreams and my career, I'm able to bring them with me. So, you know, why these are moments like we're going to look back and make sure, you know, we didn't regret. So, I mean, if I can bring them, man, I'm bringing them everywhere. And I do a lot of stuff with my kids.
Right, right. Well, I want to ask you, because now I need to dive in a little bit. I say this every show, Johnny Davis Live, real talk, real solutions. So I want to dive in a little bit about how you were raised. What kind of father did you have? And tell me how that might have influenced you. So go back a little bit into your childhood and how did you look at your dad?
Okay.
Good,
Yeah.
bad, or
So
ugly?
yeah. So my dad, he was a prominent member around here in Florence. He was the superintendent in the Timmonsville school district for a long time, and he was a big supporter, you know, in the scholastics in this area.
Mm,
He was kind of a front runner. He changed that area.
mm.
He was a hardworking man. You know, he made sure we you know, we got anything that we needed, and he was always a big supporter of things. He did work a lot, which maybe, you know, kind of goes back into what I said. He wasn't able to take me around with his job and things like that.
Right.
So that's why I kind of, you know, try to bring my kids along as much as I can.
So
um,
let me dive in there for a minute, Walker. So your dad was a busy man. He was really
yeah.
busy. Are you saying that you were a little bit deprived, perhaps, of his attention?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can say that. My mom filled the role pretty good. She's actually why I got into a lot of sports. Like I said, my dad was working a lot. You could say he kind of funded some things, and meanwhile, my mom is who would like motivate me and keep me in sports, push me in sports, took me to practices, played catch with me, and stuff like that. And then my dad was supportive, but it was more like financially, I guess.
So,
Obviously,
so
that's something
look,
as a
so,
kid you don't think about, but
right, right. So, but looking through the eyes of this teenager, right? Through the
yeah.
eyes of a teenager, when you looked up at your dad, I want to. This is important for the rest of this conversation. I told you I dive in, Walker. Walker smiling. I told you I dive in.
Yeah.
So when you are this kid and you're one, are you feeling a little resentful that dad can't take you there, is not there? Or you understand even at that age that he's kind of funding the things that you want to do? Was there a little resentment there?
Probably. My parents split up when I was
Oh,
11 or 12 or something like
okay.
that.
So how did that affect you?
Oh, actually, I probably am saying too much, but
No.
I remember the morning I walked down. It was before school, and I remember them arguing and talking about it and when the split was going to happen. But
Hmm.
yeah, and then, you know, they kind of. I think it was better that they did that because I do remember growing up there was a lot of like arguing and head butting, so to speak. I wouldn't call it fighting so much, but you know, tension was high in the household, me and my brother, and when they split, things were a lot nicer. And my dad he ended up going somewhere else for school, and, you know, fast forward, he like lived in Florida for a while, but
Hmm.
they always got along real good. So at least that did show me that, you know, you don't need to stay together to make it work for a family, when sometimes separation makes things better for the kids, you know, because
But
like
somehow,
I said, they
yeah.
didn't get along when they were together, but once they separated, things were a lot nicer, and more cordial. You know, he came around for family events and things like that. But
So that taught you. It sounds like I hear another message in that somehow. I hear another lesson in that somewhere
yeah.
about how you relate with your wife today. Tell me a little bit about how that experience is teaching you today to be a better father.
Yeah, well, so my son is from a previous relationship, and then I met my current wife now, who has a child from a previous relationship. So we have a blended family, and now, we're having a child of our own in like 72 hours. But,
Right. Yeah, congratulations too, by the way. Yay.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Hey, Johnny Davis Live is, just really exposing a lot of things. A couple of weeks ago, last week, we had Chris Klopfelter on there. He revealed to us that his wife was pregnant and no one else knew. It's like, so we're getting it. But yes, you have a child on the way in the next few days here, and we're excited for you. And
Yeah.
everything. And so the way you treat your wife today, do you think about your dad? Even if it's trying to be the opposite.
Yeah. Sometimes, and the good part about who I chose as my wife is she's a therapist. So she is.
What you trying to tell me, Walker?
Nah. So listen, it's almost like it's she's a girl I had a crush on for like 10 years, and she finally gave me the chance, and we ended up getting married. But yeah. So I have a believe it or not, like I have a real short temper when it comes to things, but her career choice really helps us, navigate through some of this stuff sometimes. So,
that thing that you call a quick temper is probably what made you a good fighter.
At times, yes. I know the best fights I ever had were the ones where I was pretty, angry or raged about something. So.
Right. That's another kind of anger, even though you have to kind of control it in there.
Right.
And like me, I'm a nice guy. I'm nice. It took me a while to get that as a fighter, to be able to try to really take somebody out. You know what I mean? It took me.
I watched some of your fights, Johnny. I don't know. I mean, you're pretty mean in there, dude.
But what you're seeing is took me a while because I was kind of skillful, right? So I beat people up with the skill, right? But then the actual, anger, I guess it was anger, but I controlled it. It wasn't like Mike Tyson for a while when he was younger. He couldn't control the in or out of the ring. So that temperament is probably something that's probably helped you become a much better fighter. So you told me a little bit about your kids right now. How is that being a dad when you say you're kind of like a stepdad to at least her current child? Right? Yeah. How is that?
Okay, so my brother, we're gonna dive in, buddy. We're diving in.
Let's do it.
Back to being raised. My older brother was adopted, and my parents when I was younger and they were explaining it to me, this is what I used to say. I would always say to my mom, so he's not my real brother. And my mom would say, no, he is your real brother.
Right.
He's not your biological brother.
Ah.
He is your real brother. Okay. That's what she would always explain. She would say, we are his real parents. Right. We are not his biological parents. And that's something that stayed in me for a long time. And so so my stepdaughter, she's almost 3, but her mom and me started seeing each other. She was, 2 months, 3 months. So she only knows me as her dad anyway. And it's kind of, it makes things a lot smoother. I mean, things would be smooth either way, man. Like I said, because of the way my mom did with my older brother, like I've always, it's not always blood that makes you, father and son or daughter and father. You know what I mean? It's the heart. It's not blood.
I'm curious to know, real talk again. Does your wife allow you? And these are not written questions. This one isn't. Right? Just come, because I want to have real conversations. Does your wife allow you to be the dad? Does she allow you to be the father? We kind of separate father and dad last week. Father, biological, dad becomes more of a term of endearment, right?
Yeah.
Does she allow you to be that father and dad to her, to the daughter?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife's watching right now, so she'll agree. Tessa is my daughter's name. She listens to me a lot better than her mom anyway. So she behaves around me a lot better. So kind of by default anyway, and maybe at first, I didn't want to like overstep, some lines or anything like that. But now it's just another thing. Like I said, we've adopted this blended family very well, and
when you say you maybe overstepped, I got to dive in. When you said you maybe overstepped, a little bit. So, because this is important, because there's a lot of men who are in stepfather positions, right? And when you say kind of overstep a little bit, meaning that you kind of came in, oh, wait a minute, you listen to me and all that. That's what you mean? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah. So I didn't want to overstep. I wanted to make sure, like, she's comfortable. Obviously the child, you want them to be comfortable. You don't want to just come in and be like, I'm the dad now.
Right.
You gotta kind of let it happen organically. And lucky for us, it didn't take very long. And me and Tessa have, we just had a pretty good click right away. So I've been fortunate enough with that.
Right. Well, those are some of the things that I like to kind of dig into just a little bit. So when you think about the relationship and the dad thing and how all of those dots connect, right? When you look at yourself today, are you the type of father that you want to be?
Yes, yeah. The phone was breaking up, but I think I got what you asked. Yeah, I definitely. So it just kind of goes back to what you were talking about being raised. I want to be, my dad wasn't a bad dad, but I just want to be better than he was to me. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's the same thing I've talked to you about with coaching. I try to be the coach I wanted. It's the same thing with being a father or a dad. I want to be the dad I wanted. I want to be the father figure I wanted.
Oh, is your dad still around?
No, he died 3 years ago, 2017.
Right. What do you think he would think of you today as a dad?
I'm sure he'd be extremely pleased. My son got to hang out with him for a little while before he passed, and he was pretty proud of me with how I did with my son. So, he never got to see me get married or anything like that, or start my own business, but I think he'd be pretty proud.
Right. Is your mom still around?
Yeah, she is. She could be working our PKB, man.
Right, for sure, for sure. So when you think about your kids and in today's society, all the things that are going on, what are some of your biggest fears about raising your kids and how they end up?
Oh man. All right, so my son's almost 12, so I'm already hearing how these kids are now. Obviously, I run a kids program, so that has to do with it. I get to see it too. Um, I'm most worried, man. There's a lot of all right, bullying's, that's one thing, but the other thing, these kids, they're doing things to get famous or wanting to be famous, right?
Mhm.
And that's a big fear. Luckily, you know, through discipline, I guess is what we'll call it. My son is not so much on that. And he's pretty much grown up in a fight gym, so he's been around guys that aren't about stuff like that, right? Um, but I would say the biggest thing with kids now, man, is like they're not what we used to be. Like aside from the bullying, I think the bullying kind of comes from like insecurities anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of kids that grow up with more insecurities now than they used to. I don't know whether we could say society and this, that, and the other, or just like the way parents are kind of very they're just raising their kids in a bubble maybe, and it's kind of creating something soft with a lot of the kids coming up.
Well, some of
I'm
them are
not sure,
soft.
man.
That might be when you talk about raising the kids and everything. Obviously, let me just mention that Brad Mountain, whoever that is, Brad Mountain is saying Walker is the Casanova of kickboxing. All right, that's awesome. But when you think about some of the things that you're trying to teach your kids today, let's talk about the race issue for a minute. How are you teaching your kids to get along with people and see them for not the color of their skin, but the content of their character?
Well, it's kind of, again, we have a blended family. So my daughter, her dad is black, and then we are predominantly white. So that right there kind of nips that in the butt just in our household. On top of that, with my son, we just spent the last 4 or 5 years out in Las Vegas,
Mhm.
and that's extremely diverse. So naturally, it's not really something I had to touch on too much. He was
Well,
in kids.
but it is something, Walker, that you will, if you have not yet, you will have to deal. Your daughter will have to deal with it.
Yeah,
And
a
all,
hundred
man.
percent.
Right. So, how are you guys coming together and teaching all of your kids about, you know, society? What are some of the messages that you are giving them?
Well, lately something we've been started probably before any of all this new stuff is going on right now. Like what I was telling you about, like my brother who was adopted, but he was my brother, right? It's the same thing when you look at the next person. You don't look at skin color; they're a person. So like we try not to, we don't want to separate anybody from by their skin color. And it's not so much like what I'm teaching them, it's just the situations that they're growing up in.
Mm.
We're in a fight gym. And you know, as most people that are watching this, in a fight gym, there's rich, there's poor, there's black, there's white, there's brown, yellow, red, green. There's all sorts of different walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very fortunate that he's grown up in that. So that's just the world. He sees the world in a different way than it's not white and black. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
not Republican and Democrat. It's not things like that. You know, we're all people, and I think that's kind of the message people need to get, especially now. Is like reach out and join these places. A martial arts gym, you know, that's my little plug. But at the same time, like, man, you know, find other places that are similar to this, where it's not about like black and white, red and yellow, red and, you know, blue and all this stuff. Like it's not rich and poor. It's everybody coming for one common thing, you know?
I think that one thing that when we talk about, I think one of the errors that people teach them not to see color. I think that's a mistake. You can't teach people not to see color. You're going to see
Correct.
the color. I think that it's probably important for us not to treat them indifferent because of their color. Just want to throw that out. As we close out here, I want to ask you about your legacy as a dad, right? With your new child coming into the world, with your son and your daughter, how would you like for them, or what words would you like for them to say about the kind of father and dad that Walker Vivian was to them?
Well, I hope that the first thing they would say is that I cared. You know, to me, that would be the most important, is that they know that I care. And my wife would even say that's why my temper comes out so much sometimes, is because I care so much.
Right.
So that would be, you know, the biggest thing, is that I was hardworking, and that I cared, because I do work really hard. When it comes to the kids, I would say, especially when we're outside of the house, because obviously me and my wife split the duties in the house, but outside of the house, you know, I work really hard for these kids.
When
So
you say it's obvious that me and the mom or something like that split the duties, that's not obvious. Tell me what kind of stuff you do around the house, Walker. No, no, no,
no,
no. That's
she's
right. That's
watching.
right. Shots fired. Right. It's not obvious that you split the duties. A lot of men, that's what you got to watch what you say to me, right? A lot of men, right, feel like it's okay for the woman to do everything. They look. The woman could be at work all day and come home, and they still want them to cook. They still want them to clean. They still want them to do everything with the kids. What kind of relationship do you have with your wife in that regard?
Yeah, so ours isn't, I guess, conventional or whatever, traditional. I do the cooking.
Oh no!
Um,
Stop the press. Okay, and your kids are okay, right? No,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah, I do the cooking. I don't clean nearly as much as she would like me to. Um, you know, but I take care of the babies. I take care of the children. I take care of the dogs. I do all the cooking,
Wow,
sometimes the laundry,
wow,
that sort of thing.
wow. That's commendable, man. Good job. Good job. Listen, Walker, it has been a pleasure chatting with you today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on July the 11th there in Florence, our PKB tournament, sparring tournament there and all. And and I think that you are indeed a perfect example of a great father, a great dad, because you are both of them. And I feel like that you have a lot to be proud of. But I want to also say congratulations to you on that baby that's coming in about 72 hours. Right? Or whatever. Is it a boy or a girl? Do you
Yeah,
know?
he's a boy.
A
He's going to be Walker
boy.
Jr. Yep.
Right. Do you have a name for him yet?
Yeah, Walker.
Wow. What a surprise that is, right? Hey, quick story, right? So, my firstborn, Keisha, my daughter, she was Keisha. Then my first born with my wife, I had an outside, child in Lakeisha. I wanted, my son to be Johnny Davis. All right? She said, no way, that is not going to happen. It took me a little bit longer to convince her. By the time I was like 40 some years old and I had my last child, that's why her name is Jonna Davis. Get it? So I kind of got it in eventually. Walker Vivian, it is so good talking to you, brother, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon. Thanks for being on Johnny Davis Live.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Johnny.
All right, talk to you later. All right, bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they're speaking with Mr. Walker Vivian there. You see on the screen there, he and his beautiful family there. Want to say congratulations to him again. He has a young one on the way. And I tell you right now, I know that he's feeling really proud of that. Without any further ado, we're going to bring up our next guest. And our next guest is someone who I've known actually for a little while. I've heard of all my life almost. He is a former world kickboxing champion. He's out of Warner Robbins. I'm going to get that right, but I'm going to bring him up and let him explain all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the screen right there. He's the former undisputed world champion, David Barber. How you doing, sir?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good to see you. Your nickname was the Cobra, right?
Yes, sir.
Why did they call you the Cobra?
Actually, the people I trained nicknamed me because my lats looked like the hood of a cobra because of what I fought and the way I'd move when I fought. It's like a cobra moving. So my fighters actually nicknamed me the Cobra.
Well, tell me a little bit about, that was back in the day. I mean, you're not that old. I'm just saying, but it was back in the day. It was a little bit, it was kind of like, I remember, because I keep thinking, and I'm almost sure it was you. I was at this fight, and I saw this little guy. You were little, I believe. You were like bantamweight, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Came in, you were covered up, you had the stuff on, and I said, who is this guy? I don't remember where it was, but I was like, who is this guy? You go in the ring and just destroy somebody. I mean, I can't remember. I just remember just a vague piece, but I didn't know much more about that then. Could you fill the people in a little bit about your career?
Most of my fighting, I fought 118, 122.
Wow.
So I pretty much move up in that weight class. My background in martial arts is master young percentage karate.
Mm-hmm.
When I began to fight full contact, I got a phone call. Hey, you want to fight full contact? So what is the difference?
Right.
They said, you hit harder. I went to Griffin, Georgia. They had an event at the National Guard Army, and I'm walking around. They said, hey, you fighting the Georgia State champion. Really? My first amateur fight. Anyway, I fought the guy and knocked him out the second round and got the Georgia title. I was like, whatever. Then I began to fight a lot of amateur fights. I fought 17 amateur fights. And then John Orsby from North Carolina called me one day and he said, how would you like to fight pro? I was working a full-time job, and he said, well, I'll pay you. And I said, what you going to pay me? He told me, I said, you mean I get paid to fight?
Right.
So I went up to North Carolina and fought somebody. And when I got up there, it's like, this guy's a U.S. Professional fighter. Really? Well, I'm going to die. I'm just going to die. That kind of began my pro fighting because these guys would hit me. And I'm like, is that all you got? Because
right.
To get hit harder. But, in the Yama style karate, our blocks, everything we done was designed to break bones.
Right.
Blocking system we use, I hardly ever got hit. I fought 66 pro fights and got stitches in my face one time.
Wow.
So,
wow.
That kind of got started. When I started martial arts, I was 5 years old.
Right. Now, you were fighting for the WKA a lot, right?
I fought. The main reason for the difference of then it was only PK and WK back then.
Right.
I was trained actually in Japan for 4 years, and we threw a lot of low kicks, a lot of sweeps. So I fought PK as an amateur fighter, but when I turned professional, they did not allow the leg kicks.
Right.
I went over to the WK. I was actually the first WK promoter in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
And then I became the East Coast director for the WKA.
Yeah.
Kind of grew from there.
Yes, yes, yes. And I mean, you and I have talked about that, and I certainly, I'm still, you just come on board with the ICARE PKB organization and certified school and all, and I'm very proud of that. And we're going to talk more of that as we get back on track. I got a lot of plans for some of the things we want to do in Georgia. I don't know if you know this person, but they might be trying to claim you. This person came on named Krista Michelle Boyens. Do you happen to know her?
Yep.
Well, she said, "My daddy, so proud of you." Just happen to know that. Tell me a little bit about her.
I have twins, Crystal and Mandy. They're twins.
Oh, okay.
Very proud of them. They're 27 years old now. Both of them have their own home, their own children, great husbands. I took custody of them when they were 9 years old. A lot of people ask me, why did I disappear in kickboxing? I was in Florida. I had a good thing going on. I was still an active fighter. Situation arose, and I made a decision: give up fighting, give up what I was doing. I took custody of my daughter when 9 years old, raised them as a single parent till they was 16.
So, am I seeing that maybe there was a divorce or some separation from you and the wife, or was it a wife situation or a girlfriend situation, or if you don't mind saying?
It was a divorce, but because of the environment and the way some situations they were living under at the point, I fought for custody of them, and I gained full custody of them.
That's a kind of big step for men in these days to take custody of their kids, because we see in this society so much that women seem like mostly get the custody of the kids. Tell me a little bit more about what that experience was like, giving up your basic career to raise your daughter.
Well, I listened to Walker talk a while ago, and since it's Father's Day coming up, my father was an Indian, and he was
a what?
Indian, Cherokee Indian.
Oh, Cherokee, okay.
So, in the environment I grew up in, which also is the reason I became a fighter, this fight in me. My father was very abusive to my mother and I both. It was a rough situation. Okay. So, when my children was going through a bad situation, I made a decision. I'm not going to allow my children what I went through. So, yes, even though I'd been in active competition all my life, my children were more important.
Well, when you said that you kind of related the fact that he was Native American with abuse, is that something that happens a lot in the Native American society?
Yeah, in a way, because my father's side of the family, total control, total dominance. Everything was their way, and their way of making it be their way was using violence. And like I said, my mom passed away 2 weeks ago, and I think back a lot of what she went through. And even today, I'm very strong against any form of child abuse or any form of spousal abuse. I've been involved in a lot of organizations to help talk to these people, and of course encourage them get involved in martial arts. You know, if you're in an abusive situation, one, don't stay in an abusive situation, but two, learn how to defend yourself. So I've done a lot of programs. We call one of them HODAC here, but abused wives, abused spouses. So in that, to answer your question, I had to survive as a child, which turned around and gave me the fight that I had in me. So when I got in the ring to fight somebody, I was never taught fear.
Never. Did your dad, was he abusive of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my mom.
Do you think that has something to do with you becoming a fighter?
Yes, sir.
How so?
Well, I was humble on one side of me, very passionate, compassionate, and humble towards people. But the other side of me is, in order to get anger out and get your frustrations out and rage out, I'd go punch on bags or I'd spar. So when I became a fighter, amateur or professional fighter, it was already natural to me. Just to go from survival, and then you have a training. I've had people say, well, you could have went the opposite direction. You could have been, a robber or mass murderer or whatever, because what you grew up in. But I focused all my energy into the martial arts. And the martial art 100% helped me control all that rage and anger I had built up through being a child.
So you actually did the opposite of what your dad was and who he was. You basically tried to make sure that you became something bigger and better, if you will.
Yes, sir. That was my goal in life, was not to follow his footsteps. And I've raised my children, like I said, they're 27-year-old twins, and I've raised them pretty much the best way I could. Uh, I don't have any problem with them, and they both lead a good life.
Well, you mentioned earlier about your mom, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And my condolences in the fact that she just passed away. She was going through a lot of different things, at the end of life. As a man, and you were pretty much kind of like taking care of her, correct?
Yes, but she was in assisted living, but I'm the only child, so every 2 or 3 days I was out there. Yes, sir. I took care of her.
Right, right, right. What was that experience like? And being there and feeling that, and I know this well because I've been through something similar of taking care of, basically paying her back for being there for you. Did you kind of feel that?
Yes, exactly. Every time I'd go to visit my mom, I think about the many times she stood up for me, even to a point of being between my father and I.
Mm,
She took physical abuse many times to protect me.
wow.
This mom started with dementia about 3 years ago,
Mm,
and it got worse. In the last 6 months, she didn't even know she was basic in the world, but she knew me.
wow.
She could nod her head or she could mumble things to me. Even 2 days before she died, she said, she told me she loved me. So that bonding between she and I, from a child up to her passing away, it was there, it was strong.
When she actually passed away, was there a feeling that some people have guilt, some people have relief, and which one of those that did you feel, or did you feel both?
I felt the sadness as well as anybody would, but I felt relieved, honestly. Uh, I believe in prayer. And many times I prayed, my mom's ready to go. She's been a Christian all of her life. I don't want to see her just lay here and suffer.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and my daughters and I went to see her, and then she honestly had a smile on her face. And the next morning she passed away. She just went to sleep. So to answer your question, I felt a relief not seeing my mom in that condition, and not. I'd rather her just go ahead, go be with God.
right, right. Well, I think that's a very noble thing to do. A lot of respect for that, because I see so many kids turning their backs on their parents when they need them most. And all, it's a horrible thing, but we do see it all the time. You have obviously your biological kids, but you also have one of the people who seems to love you like a dad, and Miss Erica Foley.
Yes.
And that's someone who you worked with for a long time. You were like, really, I mean, your care, the way you treated her when I saw you at an event that you stepped in on the fight, which I still appreciate today. Tell me a little bit about Erica. She seems to really love you like a dad.
Um, Erica actually, when I met her, was a model. She came to me, and her
Really?
brother was taking classes from her. She came to me and she told me she was a model. I had worked with the Hawaiian Tropic and some other groups through kickboxing. As well as I do, a lot of Marine Girl stuff came from, Hawaiian Tropic and this sort of things. Anyway,
Right.
her being a model, and I looked at her and I said, "You don't look like a model to me." And she out the door, and I said, "Well, that's me. I'm like you, Johnny. I'm outspoken."
Right.
He came back a couple of days later, and I said, "Day one, I would never work my training or my fights around your modeling. You make a choice." And that's how it started. Um, she trained with about 40 guys, a couple girls from the beginning. She never backed down from anybody. Like you, as well, she stepped in the ring with Tisa Torres and some of these people in the past on
Yes.
short notice.
Yes.
But as well, it's not only the fight game, as you know, uh, you're there for them when they need somebody to talk to. You're there for these a shoulder to cry on.
Right.
So we became bonded, I guess, and she's like my best friend to this day.
Right.
There, she's got it, and she's got her own life, but that's the bond, and I do that with all my fighters. Just about every fighter I've got, come talk to me. I'm inside your head. You can train to fight, but if your head's messed up, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, come talk to me. We're going to walk through it. I'm going to make a decision. You're going to fight next week, or you're not going to fight, because if your head's not in the game, you're not going to win.
Right.
And Erica,
Erica saying that he said your training actually saved her life.
yes.
What is she alluding to?
Um, Well, one thing, she had a motorcycle accident, and it right before, not too long before she fought Miss Crutchfield,
Mm.
and the doctors told her she would never walk again. Broke her hips up and all that. And I told her, I said, you're going to get through this, and you're going to fight again. So I pushed her. I actually saw her in the ring kicking, and you could see the look in her eyes from the pain in her hips. I didn't let her give up. A lot of people in her situation would have gave up. They would have quit their job. Probably, Lord knows what happened. But I'd say once a fighter, you're always a fighter.
Right, right. Well, I think you've done an excellent job with her and with all the people that you train. I want to think a little bit more, dive a little bit more into how you see yourself as a dad based on the experiences and things that you've been through from the rather negative experience you had in watching your father and to, taking over your kids. 'Cause I remember years ago you told me that, hey, I stopped everything for my kids. Were you everything that you wanted to be as a dad?
I would say so. I feel like in every way possible, I've done everything I could do for them. We went through some rough times when I first took custody of them because, I wake up one day and I got two 8-year-old kids to raise.
Right.
I take them to school. I went to work. I pick them up. I did all the cooking, laundry, everything. So even to this day, they know the minute you and I are talking right now, if they need dad, they pick up the phone and dad's on the way. So I feel like I've been a good father to them.
Right, right. Well, I think that's pretty noble, though, because again, I tell people there's two ways to learn. In life, you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, or you can learn from your own.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Just that simple. And it
Right.
seems to me that you've learned so much from watching maybe a negative situation. You made lemonades out of lemons, and I think it's really important. What is the greatest hope you have for your kids? Seems like it's already happening, but tell me a little bit more about your greatest hope for your kids, especially let's go back to when you were actually raising them, because I'm pretty sure it was pretty scary.
My hope for them, and they pretty much in the direction now. They, like I said, they both married. They have their own children. They have their own homes. They got good husbands. So at this point, they pretty much headed in the right direction, and I'm very proud of them. I got Crystal and Amanda are twins. I got an older daughter named Shannon. She's a school teacher down in Dublin, Georgia. She's got her own family, so I think I got them going in the right direction. They're not. They've never been out the partying type. That's one thing I've really been proud of.
Right.
They don't hang out in clubs. They don't go partying. I mean, they're pretty much homebody, if you want to call it that. When they do things, they do it with their family. And
Right. I'll ask you a question because of being a fighter and everything. I always like to ask people this question sometime. How were you with discipline with your kids? Were you a spanker or did you not?
no, I remember spanking one of them one time, probably 3 or 4 years old. The rest of the time, pretty much if I told them to do something or not do something, I guess it was a tone of voice. And that was it. I never had a discipline problem with my children.
You never had to spank them at all. You just didn't. Now, the fact that you did not spank them, was that something relevant to your dad?
Correct.
And the fact that you saw what that was in an abusive type way, is that why you did not spank your kids?
Well, there's two elements, Johnny, that a child would never outgrow. One of them is intimidate them in front of people. And I've seen parents in grocery stores,
Intimidate or embarrass? Which one?
both.
Okay, okay.
I've seen parents yell at the children and scream at them in grocery stores, specifically 10 or 12-year-old kid. And that establishing their own personality. So if you go in there and you call them names and you embarrass them in front of people. And then the other thing is some people don't know the control of spanking. I grew up and some of the people, I'm 68 years old. When you got a spanking back then, you had bruises and you had marks on you.
It was not a spanking, it was a beating.
The beating.
Yeah, that's what they called them.
I've been spanked, a hit with a belt, and the belt buckle or whatever part of the belt hit me. Nowadays, you go to jail for that.
Yes.
But I didn't growing up with fear. And that's the biggest thing. If they feel like they're going to do something wrong, every time they do something wrong, that's a learning process. And you're going to beat them. They're not going to learn. They're going to resent you. They're going to hate you. And then when they get older, they're going to turn against you because they feel like all you did was punish them. So never had, like I said, one of them was 3 years old, maybe 4 years old was the last time I spanked one of my children.
Right, right. Well, we kind of have that same philosophy, and I believe it or not, especially in African American family, a lot of people believe in spanking their kids. My kids, I can count on one hand if they ever got one. If they did, some of them did. Some of them, like if they ever even, I'm talking about on the butt, I mean, I could count it because we just didn't believe in that. We thought that it was another way. So I certainly agree with you. As I start to wind down with you, David, I want to ask you. I know how you feel about the kids, but I would like to know, how do you think they feel about you? And do they show you the appreciation that you dropped everything to raise them, and being the type of father that they wanted and needed? Do they show you that appreciation today? How do they feel about David Barber?
They do in a way. Both of them are kind of quiet, laid back, I guess. They're not real outgoing towards being outspoken, but they send me text messages and they say things to me. Like yesterday, one of my daughters gave me a knife for Father's Day, and just I don't even remember the words on it.
What did they say?
Yeah, it says behind every great daughter is a true, amazing dad, and it's engraved in the knife. So things they do, they don't have to say it so much. They have ways of showing it. They appreciate what I did for them.
Wow.
They
Wow.
do.
Well, I think that is amazing, and I think that it seems to me that you've been a great example of a great dad, a great father in tough situations. Some people have it kind of not easier. What they do, right? Well, the mom and dad stays together, and they get married, they have kids, they stay together, have a great wife, and they raise the kids, and they live, a nice picket fence and all that. That's not real. That's not the way it is. A lot of times.
And it's just like the fight game. I want to add this in there too. When I was coming up professional in the professional side of the game, I would see fighters that was training in $1 million gyms, for an example.
Right.
I grew up very, very poor, so I'd train in the backyard. I didn't have a coach per se. Whoever just showed up that I could train with or box with or whatever. I did go to boxing classes for a while, so I'm much self-made fighter, self-made trainer. I'd watch Johnny Davis or I'd watch Felipe Garcia's.
Right.
I learned from what your guys did. I'd go in the ring, and if it didn't work, I got hit hard. Wait a minute, I don't like that. It didn't work too good. I had a fighter, I'm not going to call any name, that I went to Las Vegas and thought it. I read about this guy in a magazine. But I had one thing in the back of my mind, Johnny. I've lived this long. He may beat the crap out of me, but I've got to see how good he is. And that particular guy was a world champion. And I want
to know who it is, David.
Oh, and I looked around and I saw people like Chuck Norris and so many people sitting ringside, and I thought I was in heaven because I've been, I sit and read about these people, and here I am in the ring with them.
Right.
So, the whole logic to it here, a person should not have fear. The mindset, if you want to be somebody, you want to do something with your life, just do it. Don't worry about what anybody else says, just do it. And if you make a mistake, so what? That's all part of life.
Right. Well, I think those are great closing words. By Mr. David Barber, a man who's lived the life, right? He was also, like I said, a world champion kickboxing, but he's also, sounds like to me, a world champion father, and so I congratulate you, sir, and I want to wish you a happy Father's Day, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon. Okay, sir?
Thank you. My pleasure, sir.
Thanks so much. Mr. David Barber there you have it for yourself, guys. Great guy there, great information, great knowledge for fathers out there, and a reason for you to get busy being a good father if you are not. I don't care whatever your circumstances may be, right? There is not a reason not to take care of your kids and to try to be in their lives. I've learned that. I've told my story last week, and it's never a perfect situation. All right, guys, well, I always want to thank our sponsors of Blackout Fights at blackoutfights.com and Eastern Offset Printing for all they do for us. We have some new fighters, some new sponsors that'll be coming on board. We have some events that are coming up here in the near future. We're getting ready to bring up our next guest, though, Mr. Keith Morriera. He's out of Jacksonville, Florida there. He's been waiting patiently there to come up and chat with us a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, there he is, the man with the plan, Mr. Keith Morriera Senior.
How you doing, Johnny?
Okay. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Johnny?
Good, 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 good. Hey, I was glad to have you on the show today. You know, you and I, we've talked a lot over the past, in the past few years and stuff like that about a lot of different things. I want to say congratulations on your new baby that you've had only a few months. We'll get into that just a little bit later, but I certainly want to say congratulations. And that was a perfect opportunity to bring you on for this Father's Day show and all, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, if you would take a moment to introduce people a little bit to who you are and a little bit about your background in the sport of Muay Thai and kickboxing.
Oh gosh, trying to figure out where I started. I mainly got into martial arts because when I joined the military, I thought I knew how to fight because I was kind of raised in a rough area. But then when I joined the military, I kind of realized around certain people, I'm like, well, I don't really know how to fight. So there's these things out there, maybe I should learn something. And so I started with like Okinawan karate, and then they had different people come in. They're like, oh, there's this kickboxing, and there's this Filipino martial arts, Kali and Eskrima. Wow. And I just got excited, and I just started training everything. And then over the time period, it kind of narrowed down. And then I saw this really neat videotape. And it was these guys in Thailand doing Muay Thai. And I'm like, wow, that's really neat. It was on this TV in foreign language. Didn't understand it. I was like, I want to learn that stuff. And I was in California at the time, fortunately. So I was looking up places to train. I didn't know any place about it. And there was this place called Fairtex Muay Thai. And it was in San Francisco. I lived about an hour away, but I'm like, well, this place looks pretty legit. It looks good. And I didn't know anything. And so when I get there, I take a few classes, and little did I know, I was training with legends of the sport.
There
was this guy's named John Sanong.
Oh, yeah.
A guy's named Alex Gong.
Oh, Bunker, yeah. Where was
Gong Yao. And I'm like thinking, these are just guys teaching group classes, and it was like in a little warehouse alley thing. Well, it's a big warehouse, and I was having fun, and I did not know the privilege of the people I was training with. I had no idea. And it was just an amazing experience, and that's kind of where I started off on my journey with Muay Thai, and it just kind of went up from there. And I'm, traveled around a lot with the military, trained with different people. Came out Jacksonville, Florida, trained with Crew Tom Burke. Daytona, there was Crew Dominic Simmons. So I didn't realize I had all these wonderful trainers until I kind of looked them up, and I was like, oh my gosh. Right. By luck, I was just fortunate to train with some really great guys for Muay Thai, and got to learn like authentic Muay Thai, which is really tough to get outside of Thailand.
Yes.
You usually learn a lot of blended systems, but I kind of honestly gravitated towards the blended system myself because, people come and I train with people from all different martial arts, different backgrounds and body types. And so I don't try to box them into just like, okay, we'll train this style, northern style, hard style. I kind of look at their gifts, their body types, their past histories, and we eventually find their own styles. So pretty much all my guys who train with me fight completely different, and I think that's a good thing.
Right. Well, like I said, yeah, that's definitely, you're certainly a good trainer, and I like the way you kind of really get into your people, your fighters' life, and that's another part about fatherhood I think we can talk about too, the way you are to your fighters, which is rather unique. I want to also digress for a moment though, and I want to talk about the fact that you just retired from the military. Tell me a little bit about that career and in the military, and how did that teach you the type of discipline, and perhaps it maybe even enhanced you as the father that you are today?
I think with the military, what was the best experience about that? I got to see hundreds of people, hundreds of fathers, hundreds of mothers, hundreds of different upbringings. I met such a diverse group of people from all over the world, not only in the military, but from countries as well. And I got to see the good. I got to see the bad. It could write a book of all the stuff I saw firsthand. And there was a part of me where I was just like, the military and being a dad's kind of tough. You're away for a long time, and you're not really there. And I kind of didn't want that. And it's not like I was kind of trying, but I just never had children in the military until kind of towards the end. And it was funny the way it happened, to where I was coming up towards the end of my career, and my wife came home because she wasn't, she was having some tummy aches and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
She
yeah.
went to go see the doctor. She brings home a piece of paper with, the different blood tests and the things of that. And
Right.
I'm going through this, and I'm like, okay, good, negative, negative. And there's a line on there, and it said pregnancy positive. And I asked her, what does this mean? Because I'm thinking like, it's some weird kind of chemistry thing that, that she's not pregnant, but it was something else. And, it was like a false thing. She's like, no, I'm pregnant. She's like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that right now. Can
So
I tell you tomorrow?
this is your first child.
Yes, yes. Actually, first child. Um, we weren't trying, but we weren't trying to avoid it. We're just married couple, and,
Right.
we've been married for a long time at that point, and, no babies. So we just kind of came to terms, and,
Okay.
I was,
So Chris, so now you have the baby. So now I gotta go back a little bit. I would need to dig in a little bit now. Here it is, Johnny Davis Live, real talk, real solutions there. So when you were raised, you got into martial arts. I understand that. But was your dad in your life?
well, my biological father, never met him, never knew him. They were
Whoa.
married like a high school sweetheart type of thing, and then wasn't so sweetheart after that. I know his name is on my birth certificate. Never met the guy. My stepfather came into my life around 5 years old. In the beginning, it was a little rough because he was dealing with some challenges with some alcohol and drugs.
Mm.
And then later on, cleaned that up. By the time he cleaned it up, the formative years were over. And so, it was kind of interesting. They were kind of in and outside of my life as far as that. And I don't blame anybody. It is what it is. Circumstances are what it are. And, it's okay. I kind of dealt with that part.
Yeah, well,
But I left home early.
Yeah, hold on, Keith. Hold on, Keith. I know you can't see me right now, but I can see you, and it couldn't get the camera right on that. But I just want to interject there for a second. So you said that these guys were kind of in and out, did that give you a kind of different idea about what a man in your life should be like, or as far as a dad and what a dad should be like, or a father should be like? Do you think that kind of somehow challenged your opinion on that today?
It was interesting because there was like a before and after the addiction part. And so the after part was a lot better. And so I got to see both sides of it from the same person. So it was kind of interesting.
Mm.
And so I got somebody that was in my life, and then somebody was out of my life, and then in my life again that was different. So it was definitely interesting. And of course, it had to have affected. And it's kind of hard to articulate what that might have been.
Right.
All I know is I left home early because I think I was kind of ready to figure out who I was. So I enlisted in the military when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
And so at that point, I was just ready to go. So I had to kind of figure out that whole deal on my own. And I think a lot was I observed him, I observed his dad, I observed my uncles, I observed my grandfathers. So it was kind of a collaboration of all those men where I kind of formed my opinion of what a dad should be.
Let me ask you a question. You think you were looking for a little bit more discipline? Were you maybe acting out or something? And why you joined the military? Because the military kind of gives you a little bit more structure. Do you think there was something in the military that you were kind of looking for that maybe that the dads were not there to offer you?
I'm not sure it was that. It was actually a combination. The funny part why I joined the military is because I want to join the military because I watched too much G.I. Joe when I was a kid, and I wanted to be a real American hero. And the other side of it was I was ready to do something different because the neighborhood and the area and the stuff I was in wasn't really good. I knew the future was bleak in it, and I'm like, I need to do something dramatic. And that's kind of was my dramatic thing to kind of escape that situation, neighborhood, and because I knew it was time for something better and
The
something
military,
different.
so the military was really good for you, and the fact that you said you did like GI Joe, so that could have had something to do with it. I took this picture down from the website with you holding your baby, your new baby, in front of a GI Joe. But I guess more of my concern might be all the guns that are lying that are lying around in the picture.
I think those were prop guns for the GI Joe costume folks. So,
was that what it was?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, those weren't real. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. I get it. So you were at a place where it was more like
At a convention. Yeah, I was at like a comic book sci-fi convention, and that was actually a charity group that was raising money. They would dress up and they would raise money for charity, and that's just their props.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering, when you think about your daughter today and being that kind of father that maybe the men around you were not, what gives you the hope that you're going to be better?
I think mainly because I wanted to be around her all the time. And honestly, one of the questions that came up that relates to your question was people were like, wow, you had your daughter at 43 years old and she's only 16 months now. And they're like, don't you feel that you're old? And I'm like, you have no idea. It was perfect timing.
Right.
I would have messed her up because I was dealing with unforeseen things, buried things. I had no idea. Right. And they were coming out in ways that I didn't quite understand at the time. And she literally was born at a time in my life, which was a crazy crossroads, that she was like a miracle of the timing and a miracle baby, life changing, just amazing how like she came into my life at the perfect time. And when she gets old enough, I can't wait to tell her how she saved my life and made me go into a different direction, completely different direction.
Let me interject that too, because I think I know a little bit about what you're talking about. But can you maybe expand on that just a little bit about maybe what you were going through, that somehow she came in and made you get a totally different perspective on life?
Okay, well, I won't get too deep into it. I'm just going to summarize it.
Yes.
Early on in my career, I was in Desert Storm and 5 operations all the way, Southern Watch, Enduring Freedom, and a lot of things in between. And I seen some things and I did some things. And
got it.
Part of that, and back then you didn't talk about it, you buried it. And then, but as any vet will tell you, that stuff will creep out eventually. And my plan before my daughter was, you know what? I'm just done with society. I'm going to disappear into the mountains. I'm not going to talk with anybody. I'm just going to go find peace, not interact with anybody. And my wife wants to come. She probably will. Cool. But it is what's going to be what it is. But when my daughter was born, I realized, I was like, wait a second. The instant she was born, I was just like, I cannot subject this innocent child that has an unlimited potential to that life. She needs to be exposed and choose her own path. And I couldn't do it to her. So I'm like, well, let me go ahead and seek out some help. And it's probably going to be painful. And boy, it was a rough start. Don't want to get too much in. That's a whole story for a whole other show.
I get it.
But she made me realize that, hey, you need to have courage. You need to face these issues. You need to grow, because you have this little perfect angel that deserves a fair chance at reaching her full potential. And I'm so thankful for that, because I think my wife is probably happier. I know my daughter is going to be happier. And like, honestly, now I've started to see even myself personality change a little bit, to where like she's bringing out like the softer side, I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's been incredible, because I think, figuring out who I am, it's amazing. And she was a catalyst to all of that.
So she's helping you kind of find you.
Oh my gosh. In ways and I think what is wonderful about it, and talking about, and I get to be around her all the time now. because I'm retired, is the little things to where you can't put a dollar figure on. We were at a park and she was sitting in the grass and she was pulling up the grass and she was smiling and laughing. And I went to tears because I'm like, oh my gosh, the innocence joy of watching your daughter play with grass and look at butterflies and flowers. Like, you can't replace those memories and those times. And I get to have those almost every day. And it's incredible.
Why does that affect you so deeply, you think? Just to see her just playing in grass and it makes you emotional?
I think for me was, I had just such a rough life up to that point. And what I'm actually trying to learn now, after having such a, kind of like a rough life, there was some goods. I'm not saying it was all bad, but it was pretty rough. And from childhood all the way to adulthood to the end of my career. And now I'm just kind of like, it's okay to relax. It's okay to have joy. It's okay to have peace. And now I'm 44. And for the first time in my life, trying to figure that out, it's very strange emotions. And so I have huge emotional swings and a lot of good ones because of my daughter. And I'm just so excited for every day because of her.
When you think about her and growing up in this society that we live in today, there's a lot of things that are going on, in regards to, race and gender and culture, religion, and all those type of things like that. What is your biggest fear for her as maybe she grows up? She's a teenager. Now she goes out on her own. What is your biggest fear?
To be honest with you, at this time, I can't say there's just like a fear because it's so fresh. She's only 16 months old. It's all pure innocence. I just want to, I'm going to be giving her the childhood that I want her to have, as far as not like material things, but time and affection and education. And I'm very confident that she's going to grow up to be a fantastic person because she's going to have the time. And actually, one of my strategies about fear, I think some dads fear, like, oh, wait, maybe my daughter will, marry some bad guy. I have a strategy for that. That's kind of like, maybe that's my biggest fear, but I have a strategy. And my strategy because I believe that daughters keep their standards on their future husband, on their dad. So my strategy is to treat her mother so well.
There you go.
And let her see that. Treat her so well and let her experience that. That when she has a prospective mate in life, that's going to be her level and nobody's going to be able to be below that. So that's my strategy. And I just feel bad for the people that come in her future because friends, family, potential mates, she's just going to be like, I know how I'm supposed to be treated. I know what it's like what a man is supposed to treat a woman like. So you ain't coming to me with this mess.
Right. That is so important. And that's my quote unquote strategy philosophy as well. I try to treat the women around me, especially my daughters and my wife too, but my daughters, that this is the way that means you don't handle them, you don't spank them, you don't do things to them, you treat them with respect, right? And then they will hopefully go out and look for someone with your characteristics and someone who treated them or treats them the way you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's a nice quote unquote strategy that you have there. And I think that she's going to very much appreciate it. As we start to wind down a little bit, or do you think right now that you are doing everything and being everything you want to be as a dad?
I think mainly the big thing that I'm very thankful for because of the timing is I get to be around a lot. And, so the military and even a corporate America, because I worked in both, you got to take time away. If you have a job to do, you got responsibilities. You got to, 100 people, 200 people that rely on you for their livelihood. And that's all off the table now.
Right.
And so I'm very thankful because now I'm not going to have to miss those events, those birthdays. I don't have to miss those days at the park. I don't got to miss the baseball game, the karate tournaments,
Right.
whatever she gravitates to. I don't have to miss them.
Right.
And she never has to know her dad wasn't there. And that alone right there, that's paradigm shifting in a person's life.
Yeah. And that's huge, because again, you didn't have that when you were coming up, and now you've changed that. My final question to you, Keith, if I were to talk with your wife right now, just pick up the phone right now, and just call her up and say, "Hi, this is Johnny Davis Live. What kind of guy is Mr. Keith Morriera as a father?" What would she say?
I think she would say he's an interesting personality that's kind of a pain and overbearing at times, but it comes from a place of such sincere love that I understand it.
Wow. That is awesome. Well, look, man, I just want to say thanks so much for being on the show, and congratulations on your 16-month-old. I think you're a great dad. I think you, the people who will see this are going to think the same thing and all. And I think you're a great example for other dads to follow in taking on responsibility and understanding that you don't know everything, right? And that you can learn from your children. They say that out of the mouths of babes, I think it says somewhere, right? And so I think that our kids are certainly have become, in many ways, our teachers, as long as we pay attention. Yeah. That make sense?
Oh, yeah. Makes a ton of sense.
All right, Mr. Keith Morriera, man, thanks. We have a lot more to talk about. We're going to bring you back on the show, and we'll talk about some Muay Thai and kickboxing stuff in the future on some future shows. Okay, brother?
Oh, yeah. There's, as you well know from years of knowing me, I have opinions on a huge variety of subjects. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Right, for sure, man. Thanks so much for being on today. Keith Morriera, Jacksonville, Florida. There he is. Thanks so much, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There, Mr. Keith Morriera. He's out of Jacksonville, Florida. We had some great conversation with him today, as well as our other guest, Mr. Walker Vivian, and Mr. David Barber. All of those guys have great perspectives on fatherhood, and I'm glad that you guys joined in today to listen in to these fathers and some of the things. And listen, if you're being a deadbeat father, there's no reason for that, right? So we need you to step it up. If you are a deadbeat father, get into your kid's life, guys. I don't care what the situation is. Figure it out. Work with the wife or the girlfriend or whatever, and they need you. It will make our society better in the future, guys. Trust me on that. Once again, guys, I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. Thanks again to our sponsors, Blackout Fights at blackoutfights.com and Eastern Offset Printing for all they do for us. We want you to continue to wash those hands, practice social distancing, and wear those masks in public, guys. Remember to always respect each other. This is Johnny Davis Live, and I'm checking out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, and happy Father's Day to everyone.